Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for connecting with us today. All protocols duly observed. Today is day 4 of the African Universities Day celebrations. And of course, this is the East Africa Regional Office event. I'll quickly take us through the program or what our program would look like today. But before that, I would like to honor some people or personalities joining us today for today's session. I can see the Secretary General of the Association of African University, Professor Olushola Bandele, connected here. I think some of the speakers are also connected at the moment. We have Dr. Quinette K. Kingsley, who is representing Nigeria in this session, connected. I see some of the presenters and the speakers for today's session connected, and we hope that after the introductions and a brief background to how or what our conversation or our celebration is going to be like, we would invite them to take the floor to have their speech. I also see the Honorable Man, His Excellency, the President of the Association of African University, Professor Bakri Said, connected. He would give us some keynote address before we start the session. Dr. Faiza Osman could not join us here due to some emergency she had. And so, okay, I think Professor Faiza is connected. I would hand over to her to give us some opening and welcome address and overview of our events today. Dr. Faiza Osman is the director of the East Africa Regional Office of the Association of African Universities. Dr. Faiza Osman, if you are here, kindly take the floor to give us remarks and of course an overview of what our events or celebrations is going to be like. Thank you.
Naomi, I think you should proceed.
Well noted, Madam. Okay, I would like to call on His Excellency, the President of the Association of African University, Professor Bakri Said, to give us some keynote remarks before we start the event.
Good morning, everyone. I was having a little bit of difficulty actually hearing. The sound was very low. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
Hello?
please, Prof, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
You can?
Yes.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, Prof, we can hear you. Kindly speak.
Yes. Yeah, hello?
Yes, Professor Bakri, we can hear you. Kindly speak.
Oh, you can hear me, right? Good.
Yes, please.
Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Distinguished guests, ladies and I'm grateful for Dr. Faiza for organizing this meeting. As you may know, the Association of African Universities has been organizing these celebrations annually since 2006. And we consider this as an extension to the general aim of the AAU in providing platforms for exchange of ideas and experiences between African universities on the key issues related to development. As you know, just before independence in most African countries, or immediately after independence, the colonial powers established usually a single university. But the African people had a lot of interest higher education will play a leading role in bridging the gap between Africa and developing countries. Higher education has served Africa in many ways, mainly in providing human capital, which initially replaced the expatriates who left after independence, but subsequently they manned the different aspects of life. However, the aspirations of the African people were not completely actualized. And in fact, the gap between Africa and developing countries kept expanding, and Africa remained the least developed continent. And higher education itself over the years has been plagued by a lot of problems, which for to contribute to the issues of development. I'm participating in this meeting now from Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, where I am participating the United Nations Conference of the Parties, which is meeting now to discuss issues of global campaign to curb the rise in temperature on the planet. Now, Africa is the least continent contributing to greenhouse gas emissions, but is the most affected by its effects. And the effects of climate change are already here. And we're seeing that concerning rainfall and concerning development. And this will lead to a vicious cycle of displacement and conflict and so on. And conflict is one of the major hindrances of sustainable development. And so climate change now is at the heart of the interest of the AAU, because it is affecting the lives of people on this continent. And universities repositioning themselves in the public space in a way which enables them to be an effective partner in combating climate change. You know, Africa is working towards realizing the international development agendas, that is the SDGs and the Agenda 2063, which is the roadmap for development in Africa. And unfortunately, there have already been some pessimistic forecasts that most African countries are unlikely to achieve the SDGs by 2030. And that is even before the advent of COVID-19, which has hampered our ability to do that even more. And now climate change is really affecting so many communities and threatening to wipe out actually, or it did actually wipe out some of the progress which was made in many African countries. So there are a lot of challenges ahead. And for African universities to really play a good role, they need to go back and review their social contract, become proactive in identifying the ambitions and aspirations of the African people. And that will put them in a good position to help governments formulating and executing adequate policies to combat, to face or combat these challenges, which are mounting and increasing their effects on the daily lives of the African people. We need to go into solidarity with all stakeholders, political authorities, private sector, other societal organizations, NGOs, which are interested in promoting the lives of Africans. And in that way, we make ourselves more relevant, and at the same time, we can contribute to solving the problems of and combating the challenges facing sustainable development. But to do that, African universities have to examine themselves and ask themselves, are they really capable of playing this role? Do we need to retrain our staff? Do we have enough capacity in Africa to do that? Do we want to ask help from international agencies and build linkages with developed countries? We have, for example, the good example of the African Centers of Excellence, which is funded by the World Bank and the relevant countries in Central and West Africa, and in which there is collaboration between research groups in Africa and other groups in developed countries. And that experiment has shown actually this collaboration or partnership can actually yield a lot of good. And I think we should be looking for such partnership to go beyond just doing research on specific research topics for training PhDs into helping African universities into developing their capacities so they can play their envisaged role in helping government to achieve development for the people. I hope you have a good day. I'm very pleased to have such a very esteemed line of speakers lined up. So I hope you have a good and successful day. I would like again to thank Dr. Faiza and the organizers, and I will thank all the speakers for willing to share their experiences with us for the sake of higher education in Africa. Have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Bakri Said, for your warm remarks and of course your informative message to us. We'll now call on Professor Olushola Bandele Oyeole, the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities, to give us some warm remarks.
Thank you very much. I want to recognize the president of AAU, Professor Bakri Said, and all the other people whose protocol have already been established. Let me welcome all of us, especially to this special program to mark the African Universities Day. The focus of this particular celebration this year is on open science. And it's my pleasure to briefly seize this opportunity to speak about open science. I'm aware of the misunderstanding surrounding the concept of open science. To some, open science connotes publication of science without going through the scientifically recognized peer review process. This is far from the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, open science has been described as the practice of science in such a way that others can collaborate and contribute where the research data, lab notes, and other research processes are freely available under terms that will enable the reuse, the redistribution, and the reproduction of the research and its underlying data and methods. The UNESCO recommendation on open science defines open science as a movement aimed at making scientific research more transparent, efficient, and democratic, while making the final work, along with its various supporting data and methodologies, findable and accessible. So, ladies and gentlemen, open science is something that we need to support in the African research process, because all that it entails is that when you do your research, open science requires that your data that you generate in the research is openly available. So open science rests on the following. One, open data, that is the research data is made available. It also rests on open methodologies, whereby the methodologies you've used in your research work is also not made secret. Open science also demands what I call open notebook, open source, and open access, which mean free access to the information and other materials that are connected with your research work. Ladies and gentlemen, in our focusing on open science in this African University Week, we know the benefits of open science. Open science is a key tool for academic cooperation and information sharing, and provides data upon which inclusive policy could be made in science and research. Ladies and gentlemen, as we discuss about open science in this celebration, I want universities in Africa to look deeply at the benefits of open science, and let us do all that we can to ensure that research in Africa contributes to our development. Let me welcome us once again to this celebration, and I look forward to other conversations that will be coming up in this special one that is meant for the East African region of EARO. I will finally want to appreciate our coordinator, all the universities that are connected, and I wish us greater collaboration in the days ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Olushola Oyewole, for reiterating the need to have education or have more knowledge on open science and the relevance of it to research and publishing. We were supposed to take some keynote remarks from Professor Imadel Dinarade. Please pardon me because I'm from the West African session and I have no idea or how to pronounce correctly some of the names, so please pardon me. He is the Vice Chancellor of University of Khartoum, and also we're to take some remarks from the President of AMU Commission on Mathematics Education in Africa. But I think that they are not connected at the moment. And so we'll just delve straight into our discussion for today's meeting. This discussion will also center on the main theme for the celebrations, which is open science, bringing equity to research and publishing. I'd like to know if Mr. Felix E. Anyam, who is a data scientist at the Center for Health and Development at the University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria, is connected. Kindly let me know if you are connected, and then you take the floor to give your presentation on open data practices in research processes.
All right, Felix is here.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Kindly
thank you. All right, you
moderator, Dr. Feza is around. I don't know if you can proceed with the remarks. I don't know. Thank you very much.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Professor Osman, you can continue. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm here. Okay, thank you very much. On behalf of East African Regional Office and University of Khartoum, I would like to thank Professor Olewole, the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities, for your generous support and assessment. Secondly, I would like to congratulate AAU and EARO for its many achievements over the past 45 years. Ladies and gentlemen, since the creation of East African Office of the Association of African University 2018, there has been a significant increase in the number of universities across East African continent, calling for a pragmatic approach to foster collaborations across the region. EARO has responded to some of the international challenges and adapt to meet the needs of our members by providing a platform or constitutions, debates, cooperation, and collaborations. We have also provided leadership in identifying of some emerging issues and support for debating them. The African University Day, which falls on November each year, it set aside to celebrate the establishment of AU in November 1867. The day also provides an opportunity for critical dialogues targeted at improving the quality of African higher education toward the growth of the continent. Open science movement first appeared in the early of 1880 in the United States of America, then very quickly spread to other regions of the world, north and south, in 2000s. But this movement have not been received in the same way in the different regions of the continent. While the African countries have embarked on policies to open up published data since 2010, the numbers has been less sponsored among Francophone-speaking sub-Saharan countries. As for English-speaking countries, they very quickly become involved in the movement, and this is reflected in the capitals of the continent to in the rank of countries, the term of openness. Ladies and gentlemen, in Africa, we have many initiatives and we have many platforms that have been established and serve open science in Africa. Next to African Open Science Platform, EOSPA. There are several sister initiatives such as East African Higher Commission Initiative for an East African Open Science Cloud of Health, EASCH, and environment. Also, we have many others initiatives like CoData and Fair Data. Also, it helps Africans a lot in the open science. Ladies and gentlemen, as all body knows, by 2015, African population will cross the 2 billion mark. The majority of whom will be young, and by 2025, a quarter of all young persons under 25 in the world will be African. They must be appreciated, empowered into the intellectual capitals that Africa needs, which given skills, especially in open science, technology, and innovations. In resources-constrained countries, like East African countries, with crisis, civil wars, and political instability, open science faces several barriers comparing to developmental countries, which hinder its adopting and growth. Among the barriers to open science, including lack of policies from the governments, local funders, and institutions regarding open science practice, lack of adequate human and infrastructure capacity for training on open science, little trust in open science from the researcher, and the lack of awareness and skill of open science practice. The advancement of scientific research and raising the next generation scientists in Africa depend largely on open science. The East African crisis has caused discussions around open science to re-empt properly, especially in the resources-poor setting like African, where the practice of open science is very low. Open science can be tracked back to the Middle Age and is currently growing and entering the stage in many disciplines as introduced above. That is happening in particular due to the opportunity that worldwide internet and new technology, tools and communication channels and offering. Open science is a necessity and instrumental to overcome the inquiries among researchers and institutions in financial positions among countries with different levels of development and in general among all cities from the global society. Lack of infrastructure, availability of tools, and process that is open science infer low skills champion over science among East African speakers. Availability of infrastructure and capacity building or research design, data entry and use of cyber platform is incidental to the advantages of open science in Africa. Lack of deliberate policies and legal framework promoting open science from government, institution, and funder prevents the advancement of open science in East Africa. The availability of policies together with the provision of funds has improved open science in Europe and has placed it as one of the leading regions of open science. The lack of open science awareness, in addition, hinders the open science among East African researchers. Open science requires partnership and collaborations between stakeholders, including government, academic and research institution, research funder, researcher, librarians, publishers, information and communication technology expert, and end user of the research output. In the absence of this alliance, advancing open science in East Africa remaining challenges because these independencies are complete in the achieving open science. Addressing challenges of funding and leadership at different levels of education, research, government may be pivotal in charting a new courses of open science in East Africa. Open science is instrumental in development of scientific community. As part of open science principle, researchers should accessible, transparent, reusable, and reproducible. Under this philosophy, a growing scientific community from various disciplines is expected. Data and research information that available via open science sources platform could facilitate scientific collaboration and promote discussion among experts in the way. And I think the advancement of scientific research and raising the next generation scientists in East Africa depend largely on science and tests. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused discussion around open science to reimburse globally, specifically in the resources poor setting like the country of East Africa, where the practice of open science is low. And I think Africa must invest much more in education, science, research, and technology to meet its own developmental targets and claim its status in the world and knowledge economy. It must also strengthen collaboration between university, industry, and celebrate inter-African research and scientific corporations. This is a general overview about what our situation in East Africa. But generally, we have experiences from a country that develop the use and needs of open science in East Africa with the collaboration with funder and other organizations, like what is happened in Kenya and in Ethiopia, in Tanzania, and Rwanda, and other countries. And I think we have experience with joint country and organizational activity for the improvement of open science. Actually, if we need to improve our situation in East Africa, we need to come together. We work to work as one body. And this is our strategy in East African office of the Association of African Universities. If you see from the forum today and the presenter, actually we are not working as a one country, we are working as a region. Even we think regionally, we plan regionally and we implement regionally. We hope that we could be able to keep this spirit in order to do something and good thing for East Africa and to help AAU to achieve its main objective and goals for the development of the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Faiza Osman, for your detailed overview of our theme for today's discussion, and of course, the AU Day celebrations. I would call on, please a minute, I will call on Mr. Felix Enyam now to do his presentation on open data practices and research processes. Mr. Felix, please take the floor.
Okay, thank you. I'll share my screen now. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can. It's okay.
Okay, all right, beautiful. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be invited. And I'm also happy to have the opportunity to share my experience in open data practices in research processes. So I didn't want to do a presentation of theories. I wanted to show us as a family in the African region how I have been able to use open data practices in building research processes and capacity in my region and also in Asia. Thank you. So I'm Felix Emeka Anyam, and I'm with the University of Port Harcourt, the Center for Health and Development, where I work as the research officer and the data scientist. So as we all know, data today is the new oil. And like every oil, we have to find it, we have to extract it, we have to refine it, we have to distribute it, and use it to drive economic growth through effective policy making. Data has been there a long time ago, as far back as the 4th millennium BC. And right now, at the moment, according to the 2022 survey, we can see that Africa has about 11.5%, that's 601 million people that use the internet. And that's very encouraging. And I think as a continent, we have hope of implementing open science and open data structures. So this is the way people found jobs in the 90s, but today, this is how jobs are found. In the 90s, this is how people find hotels, but today, things have improved because of data. This is how people found direction in the past, but today people use the GPS and other modern gadget that still utilizes the effectiveness and the usefulness of data. How much does Google hold? Google holds about 10 to 15 exabytes of data. If you put that in equivalent or in perspective, that's about 30 million personal computers or 500 gigabytes combined, or 3 to 4 football ground or football field. So these are also the benefits of data. You don't have to know the language. You can actually go to a foreign country and use your phone and the Google Translate app, and it could translate the language to English without having to, ask anybody what these signposts mean. I don't know if we've heard of the Predpo. Predpo is actually a software that the police, they use to predict where crime will happen in a community. And Predpo has been found to be 2 times more accurate than even the regular standard operating procedures. These are all the impact and the benefit of open data. We are talking about self-driving today. These are companies that are using data to make impact in the world globally. Zomato is a food chain in India. We know of Uber, Netflix, very popular, Amazon, Alphabet, they are all familiar. In Nigeria, my country, these are several companies and many more tech giants that are making impact in the country and globally through data and technology. I don't know if you've heard of the Weatherman umbrella. This umbrella uses data to predict where or when it's going to rain, so that as you're carrying the umbrella, you can actually tell whether it's raining today or it's going to rain tomorrow or it's going to rain in an hour. People have used data to predict poverty. People have used data to actually predict school dropouts in communities. People have used data to predict the poorest places in India and put up interventions to actually stop that from happening. People have used data to predict symptoms of oncology patients. People have used big data to advance the way Parkinson's disease is detected. Data has been used to make prognosis for Parkinson's. You just use the phone, and as you talk on the phone, as you use the phone to take pictures, it has a way of capturing this data and could predict whether that person is susceptible to having Parkinson's disease or not. And also the IBM Watson that a lot of medical doctors around the world are using through artificial intelligence that can help doctors to clock a patient and can help doctors make better decisions when it comes to cancer treatments. And finally, this app from Apple that can help diagnose autism in children. So Open Data Initiative, what is it about? Open about what we do and open about what we know. Nothing this way anyway. So we remember the Ebola crisis. It happened around West Africa within 2014, 2016. This is what happened. Ebola struck and everyone, a lot of organizations came into West Africa to help. But guess what happened after then? They collected a lot of data, but when Ebola was eradicated in Nigeria and other places, they all took back the data because we have not come to build the capacity to actually maximize this data and cause effect and implement its usefulness in our region. Now, there's no need talking about challenges. I, as an individual, I had to find a way to deal with this. And it all started from my attendance of the Co-Data Arudie Research Data Science Summer School in 2017 at the International Center for Theoretical Physics. At that meeting, I met this wonderful lady, Shelley, over here. She's from India. And we decided to implement these processes in helping young early career researchers to be able to utilize open data for research processes to inform policy change in their country. We started the first summer school 2018 at the CEPT University. We called it Urban Data Science, where they have the opportunity to source for open data related to urban and relating to health. And this is our philosophy. It was simple. The first was from Edwin Vimy, who says, without data, you are just another person with an opinion. And secondly, the FAIR principle: findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So the idea was to hold a summer school. In 2018, it was for 6 days. In 2019, we had it for 10 days. And in total, we have had 48 students so far that have been mentored through the process of urban data science, using open data for research processes to inform policy change. So these are the importance of the open data in research: open by default, timely and comprehensive, accessible and usable, comparable and interoperable, for improved governance and citizen engagement, and finally for inclusive development and innovation. So for the summer school, this was the methodology we used. We exposed the students to open data. From that open data, they can conceptualize research topic, understand the relevance of that topic by doing literature search, reviewing what other people have done regarding the topic they've chosen. They learned how to clean up the data. They had good understanding of the data sets. They searched for other relevant data if needed. They were able to make graphs and charts in terms of data exploration to understand the data. They were able to analyze the data, write up the result, and they did a final presentation at the end of the summer school. And every day we had this sticky note here. Red is for what they didn't like, blue is for what they liked. So every day when we come in the morning, students write their feedback for the class and post it on the board. Personally, for me, what I do, I read all the red ones first, then before I read the blue ones, which is the good comments. So this feedback helped us to improve the class every day. So this picture here, this is the 2018 class we had. The picture here, I had a public lecture at CEPT University where I talked about good city life, the role of open data science in enhancing urban planning and policy making. Here are the students for 2019. This is the group of students that attended. This is the classroom. These are some of the activities we did. These are the students. This is my host, Shelley Gandhi, and these are some of the students we took pictures with. And this is a portrait for 2019 set. So we have actually published our methodology in this process. So for those that would want to replicate what we are doing, you can actually read up our processes and follow up on what we are doing. This is also open science and open data. You make your methodology open so that others can read about it and replicate it in their regions if they want to. And these are the research output from the students, wonderful research output, but I will just display a few. So these are some of the presentations of the students. So this one is really, really interesting because it sort of blew my mind, you know, where one of the students got a data from the United States, and we were able to see this path here in the x-axis. This is the path that talks about the income, and this is the part that talks about the BMI. So we were able to see that those that have more income in the United States, they have lower obesity. And from review of literature, we come to find out that lower income earners are exposed to eating junks, and that enhances their obesity. It was quite interesting to actually see that from one of the students' presentation. So far, these are all the topics that students have been able to conceptualize from the open data. from 2018 to 2019, we have a lot of teams that have come out from crime to disaster, economy, education, food, governance and planning, pollution, public health, real estate, road traffic accidents, social media, sports. So these are different topics that have, been inspired from the open data, and the students have been able to make sense of this data and presented wonderful topics that can help inform policy change. So I have been able to replicate what is happening in India, in Nigeria. At the moment, we're having a workshop that is sponsored by INAPS and AutoAid. So we're having 2 physical locations, Lagos, Port Harcourt, and 2 virtual cohorts. At the moment, the workshop is ongoing in Lagos. Today is the 4th day. So after that, we would have in Port Harcourt, and we will now have the virtual section. So these are the cohort for the Lagos. These are some of the students implementing the skill of using open data for research purposes to be able to infer processes that will inform policies. So apart from that, I'm also involved in the Core Data Connect, which is an arm of early career researchers that is helping to drive the early career aspect of core data. So this is my colleague, Shelley, and myself here. We are actually the initial leads. So these are other early career researchers from different countries that we're helping to actually drive the open data policy and change in our different regions. We have been able to organize a lot of activities. So far, we've done 7 webinars on smart and resilient cities, 7 webinars on research skills, and we've had over 2,000 participants. We've been able to run 12 episodes of data for resilient cities, and we've been able to coordinate some symposiums, one applying lessons from COVID-19 to other hazard, needs for data stewardship, data experiences from early career researchers, and finally changing the dynamics of resilient cities for post-dynamic. So we also organized an essay competition, which the team was on open data challenges to address global and societal issues. We had 20 entries, and at the end of the day, we had a winner, Esther Plum, and we had shortlisted participants for 2nd and for 3rd. Finally, all technology is inherently good. Data can be used for much better good than predicting elections. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Felix Anyam, for your presentation. I believe that we took some key points from his presentation. One thing that I noted was the fact that he mentioned that open data has made life very, very easier compared to previously. Now you can even travel to other people's countries without understanding their language, but open data, due to the use of Google apps and other software applications, you are able to get their languages translated for you to have access or be able to also move with them like you were in the country. So thank you so much, Mr. Felix. We would have a Q&A session. I wanted to mention that we'll have a question and answer session, so you can note down your questions and then we'll take them after the presentation. Now, next on our list of speakers. Thank you so much, Mr. Felix. Next on our list of speakers is Dr. Kasum Kulibari. Dr. Kasum Kulibari is the founder and president and also the CEO of the Global Institute for Women's Empowerment Group in Mali. And she will be speaking on the theme African Women's Entrepreneurship in the Era of Open Education. Dr. Kasum Kulibari, if you are here, kindly take the floor to make your presentation. Okay, I think she's dropped off because I saw her connected earlier. And so we'll take our next presentation. Our next speaker for the session is Simon P. Ngolomba. Simon is the senior lecturer at University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and also a member of Network of Internationalization Education. Simon will be making a presentation on Sharing is Caring, Universities as Open Knowledge Institutions. Simon Ngolomba,
Hello.
if you are here, yes, kindly take the floor.
Thank you. Allow me to share the presentation, please.
Sure. A minute, please. Yes, you can share now. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and good morning. My name is Simon Ngalomba. I'm from University of Dar es Salaam. I'm trying to share, but I'm not getting it. But anyway, I can proceed. I'm from University of Dar es Salaam, from School of Education, Tanzania. Today, I want to present something on the role of university to share some of the findings or data produced by academics as well as students. Can you hear me? Hello, Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but you can see your screen.
Okay. Hello? So my presentation is on sharing is caring, the role of universities towards sharing the knowledge, or
Hello, Mr. Simon. Do we give you some time to organize yourself properly before we take your presentation? Okay, I think we are having challenges having Simon Ngalumba.
No, I can. Okay, can you
Hey,
hear me?
moderator, I think even the Kolibaris around, if Simon has issues, maybe
Yeah.
Okay,
you
I can
can.
proceed. I can proceed.
Okay, thank you, Simon.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Please
So,
note that you have just 15 minutes for your presentation.
all right, yeah.
Thank you.
The university across Africa has witnessed the sharp rise in the volume of data created in recent years, both by academics or researchers within the university through their projects as well as publications. Also, students, especially postgraduate students, through their thesis or dissertations. And in some countries, for example, in Tanzania, it's a requirement that students, they should produce at least one paper before they graduate, especially PhD students. So you may witness that the number of data generated by both academic staff as well as students. So all this data can be used to address societal challenges across Africa, within the country as well as across Africa. However, universities usually want to be the first, or academic staff, they usually want to be the first to publish the paper on the data. So we are calling on the data sharing, where these academics or researchers, they should share what they have with other members of the society. Generally, data sharing is very low in sub-Saharan Africa due to strict privacy laws. For example, in Tanzania, we have Tanzania Statistics Act of 2015, where it restricts members, academics, to share some of the data until they get approval from the National Bureau of Statistics. So universities for years has been reluctant to share some of the data due to the different regulations as well as laws. But data sharing offers a lot of benefits. Some of those benefits it saves money through the reuse of original data from one researcher or from one institution. Second benefit is that it promotes new research avenues for other researchers so that they can develop new research avenues. Third is it leads to more publication based on the original data, as well as the data sharing helps to protect against fabrications or falsification or distortion of the original data. Currently, many charitable foundations, for example, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as well as Wellcome Foundations, professional associations like American Psychological Associations, as well as some of the scientific journals now formally recognize these efforts or benefits of encouraging data sharing. However, in sub-Saharan Africa, universities as well as researchers, they are still reluctant to share their data. For example, from the university based on University of Dar es Salaam, 80% of the University of Dar es Salaam academic staff whose work was published in international journals didn't share their data upon request. So why the hesitation? Why they hesitate to share the data? One is because they fear of loss of control of their data. Also, researchers worry that their work will not be replicated. That's the fear they have. So what's the way forward now? The best way to do this data sharing is to incentivize the data sharing practices. Significant changes at institutional level as well as journals are important to support researchers in sharing their data with other colleagues. Universities should reward the data sharing equivalent to academic publication, where sharing of data should be considered during the tenure as well as during the promotion. Also, journals should require data archiving and data citations when someone submits the manuscript for possible or consideration for publication. So also we need to to give capacity to among researchers for data sharing. And here there are two main concerns with data sharing. One, there's this concern that data sharing, it involves a lot of work. And second concern is that there is the issue of confidential, that some of the subjects are easily identifiable. So most of the researchers, they are of the opinion that they don't want to share the data because maybe they are going to breach the confidentiality of those respondents. So I recommended some of the rules for the care and feeding of scientific data. Therefore, first, rule number one, they should have the proper planning where management plans submitted should be submitted with proposals where the researchers are supposed to show how they're going to manage the data, to describe the data, to analyze, and how they're going to store the data, with the mechanism on which they're going to use at the end of the study. Second rule is that standardization. All information that secondary user will need to make sense of the data. The third one is description, that create the user guide explaining overall data collection process. And the last one, the archiving, where the institution should develop the repositories, which will help other researchers to review and enhance the original data. So how to address these data sharing concerns? One, the researcher, they should use appropriate consent protocols so that they can protect the subjects or respondents during the data collections. Also, to separate the personal identifiable information, which will not be easy to identify those respondents, as well as to anonymize the data. In conclusion, data sharing offers a lot of benefit, numerous benefits as mentioned before, but there are a lot of issues need to be addressed. Still, researchers, they are reluctant to share the data due to publication pressure as well as competition from colleagues. And this must be addressed by the open science with support both from the government and respective universities as well as academic institutions in the continent. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Simon and Galumba, for your
El giornale no central, aquel que no es central.
Please hold on a second. Okay. All right. Thank you so much again, Mr. Simon, for your presentation. I would quickly go back to calling, please a second. Yes, I would call on Dr. Kasum Kulibari. I'm told that Dr. Kasum is here. Solomon, are you sharing your screen? Hello, Solomon, please, you're sharing your screen.
Oh, okay, let me switch to.
Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, Dr. Kasum Kulibari is online now, and so I'll call on him to make his presentation right away. Dr. Kasum Kulibari, like I said earlier, is the founder, president, and CEO of the Global Institute for Women's Empowerment. And she'll be presenting on the topic, African women's entrepreneurship in the era of open education. Dr. Kasum, kindly take the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues, and thank you, moderator, for
Dr. Kasum, we cannot see you nor hear you.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, Doc.
Okay. I say good morning, colleagues and moderator, for this opportunity for us to share our insights during this African University Celebration Day. Just to congratulate and to thank Professor Faiza Osman for inviting me to that conversation. I'm very happy to be with you and to share my points about the issue of entrepreneurship in that open science area. First of all, my institute is based on supporting gender equality and women's empowerment in Africa, especially, but also globally, by developing 4 activities, especially based on research and study, technical assistance and consulting, also education and training, and also information and communication. We are based currently in Mali, but working across Africa and developing collaboration with universities in Africa, but also national technical agencies that support entrepreneurship and gender equality and women's empowerment in the continent. In my view, I want to address 5 points in that conversation today, to raise some points and to say that Africa is now the continent where entrepreneurship is growing and growing, and we have the youngest population in the world. And in the continent now, we are importing about $50 billion for food in the continent every year. And this amount is very, very important. And when we go to over data, we can say that in the agricultural sector, we have among 60% of the population who are working in the agricultural sector in Africa who are women. And also we can say that 50% of the agriculture and the food production in the continent are made by women. And when we see that data, we can see that entrepreneurship, women entrepreneurship is a key point where universities can have a very important role to change the narrative and to let our continent grow, to bring peace and security and development for all in the world. And where the open data and open science can play a role, I can say we have 5 parts where we can have an important role to play. The first role is capacity building and education. Can we imagine in a time where we African universities can share our data among women, young people who can have access to education? global education, but especially entrepreneurial education, where we can work together to develop, we in a distance learning, the capacity of entrepreneurship of our women and young girls across the continent. Can we imagine what contribution we can make in that situation to impulse the sustainable development, the innovation, and the food security in the continent? I think that this is one pillar where we can think our universities and open data can play an important role in the contribution of the development of Africa, and where universities themselves can play a very important role. The second phase is policy development. We can say that we have a lot of policies inside the continent. Every country, the 54 or 55 African countries have entrepreneurship policies. How open data, how collectively we can work together to strategize and to develop, common, innovative policies using data inside the continent, using open data inside the continent to develop key policies where we can shape, the African entrepreneurship, environment to have an enable environment where we can develop our businesses, small business, medium business, and micro business for women and for young people across the continent. I think that this is the second pillar where open data and open, universities can have play an important role to play inside the continent. The third thing is about access to finance. Now we are in a way where hard banks, facilities to access to finance is very difficult. We are now the fintech sector who is growing. How can we use open data? How can we protect the data of the entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs inside the continent, to build fintech, solutions that can bring access to finance easily for women inside the continent? I think that this is a critical point where universities can work and to develop, innovative platforms that we can facilitate access to finance for women, young girls, and also for youth in general in the continent. The fourth pillar, as I said, is about access to market. Can we imagine that our data, when we see global innovative market access companies like Amazon, like Alibaba from China, are using data from Africa to develop their artificial intelligence, to develop access to market, and to facilitate logistic approach for the businesses in the continent? What is our universities? Where are our own platforms that we can build inside the continent and to facilitate, access that to that data and to protect that data to facilitate access to market for our businesses inside the continent? I find that this is another point, a critical point where we can have a play role to do with universities, with our platforms, with our businesses, and to facilitate access to market inside the continent. And last, I can say, education is a key role. And the fifth point, as I want to highlight in that conversation, is access to education. We have a lot of platforms, developed by different platforms, like I can say Coursera, I can say over platforms that has been put in place to develop access to knowledge, access to education inside degrees. How we as African universities can work together to develop entrepreneurship education, training courses inside the continent, from technical side, from managerial side, and from technology side, where we can develop platforms that can access open education, and learning, distance learning education to facilitate women across the continent to have access to their knowledge in very different languages in the continent, that we can be able to build their capacity to innovate in their companies, in their products, in their services, and to allow the continent to be the richest one that can contribute to the sustainable development in the world. I find that this is the 5 pillars I can highlight in that conversation. and to see how open data, how open university, how open learning and distance learning can facilitate the business development and to enable the business environment inside the continent so that they can be able to shape the women entrepreneurship, the women empowerment, and also to generate gender equality data and to develop gender statistics in the continent so that we can be proud of ourselves, and the university has a good a role to play in that conversation and that innovation sector. This is some point I want to highlight, dear colleagues, and to say that my few recommendations inside this conversation is first to have that environment where university can communicate and to develop a common platform to do innovation in the sector of entrepreneurship and access to data to develop gender equality in women's empowerment in the continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kasum Coulibaly, for your timely and very informative presentation, especially stressing on the need to involve women and or African women in promoting entrepreneurship, and of course, education being the key role, or being the key role, yes, being the key role to promoting entrepreneurship in Africa. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'll quickly move to Dr. Gwyneth K. Kingsley, who is a senior lecturer with the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Igbenedion University, Okada in Edo State, Nigeria. And she will be making a presentation on building, revamping, and increasing awareness of African institutions, of African institutional repositories. Dr. Gwyneth K. Kingsley, if you
Can
are
I comment?
yes, please. Yes.
Can I share now?
Yes, you can share your screen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead.
One minute, I'm there. Okay. I can't share my screen because it's not a PDF file. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. So unfortunate.
I will share that in course of speaking. Thank you very much, Dr. Faiza Osman, for giving me the opportunity to speak here at the AAU African University Celebration Day. Today is 10th November and it's for East African region. I want to say thank you so much. I am very grateful for inviting me to this celebration with my sub-team, building, revamping, and increasing awareness for African institutional repository. First of all, I have an outline. I'll be talking about repositories. I'll be talking about institutional repositories, building repositories, evaluating institutional repositories in Africa. We have 54 countries in Africa. What have they done thus far? I'll also be speaking on some facts and then open science, and then I'll be concluding. Right now, I want to intimate us on what repositories are. Repositories are warehouses for data. It's a central place where we aggregate data and keep them. And then we manage this archive for collecting intellectual outputs from scholars. And then when we do this, we also look into preserving and disseminating digital copies of these scholarly works that we have kept. Why do we have repositories? Why must we have repositories? One, institutions in Africa, universities should be visible, and that's why repositories come to play. We should do what we call web ranking, and web ranking will make your university visible. So you need repositories. We should be able to manage intellectual assets and showcase these assets for information strategies. Now, institutional repositories hold quite a lot. What do they hold? One, they are a valuable tool and it should be developed. Why is it valuable? Makes your university visible, makes your university accessible, and makes your university transparent. And that's why you call it open science, open, transparent, no secret, okay? Now, the main objective of having repositories is for one, for open access, two, for global visibility. Anywhere you are in the world, you can see it. Like Felix Aya said from Uniport, that I would like to be part of your data team, please, all right? Now, Felix Aya mentioned that globally, China, Russia, anywhere, you can access data and translate it to the language that you use. So global visibility is part of why repositories should be there. And then institutional information sharing. So University of Ghana, sharing information with University of Dar es Salaam, where Simon is from, sharing information with my university, Igbenedion University of Okada, Nigeria. So information sharing is very important. You need repository for this. Institutions of higher learning in Africa, 54 countries of Africa, should have repositories. And these repositories should contain one, workshop papers, conference proceedings, journal articles, theses and dissertations, periodicals. And for you to be able to do this, you must build your repository at a university. So who builds your repository? Your librarian is very key. Your librarian should have a doctorate degree and have the prerequisite to be a librarian, appoint a librarian. And then this librarian will help to organize all the research projects and do this with consistency, okay? And then you should have, the librarian should try to figure out some objective analysis for the repository and create key insights, some nuggets, and make some findings for this repository to be built. What makes a good repository? For you to have a good repository, your repository should be reusable, your repository should be accessible, and your repository should be findable. People are looking for a repository online using web services like Google Scholar, Web of Science, Publons, School Posts, and all of that. They should be able to find your repository. Now, I quickly want to talk about the evaluation of some institutional repositories in Nigeria. Makerere University in Uganda was the first African university to have a repository. I think I will give them a round of applause for that. And then Eastern African universities have built 68 institutional repositories. Kenya has repository, Tanzania, Uganda. From all these 54 countries, only 32 African universities, including Nigeria, have repositories. But 22 African universities do not have repositories. So what do? We need to do what we call sensitization for African universities that do not have repositories to go about that, because it's very, very important. And we have to revamp our institutional repositories. What is that word, revamp? Revamp means restructure. Revamp means look into it critically and put what is not there to be there. And so for us to do that, we should provide adequate facilities, connectivity of stable internet service with an uninterrupted power supply for our university libraries. We should make funds available. We should make personnel available, personnel that are skilled in information and library science, communication technology, to be able to help us revamp our institutional repositories in Africa, 54 countries of Africa. Availability of a good institutional repository policy. These policies will help us to keep our repositories intact. Good training to improve awareness and skills. And then lastly, awareness program to improve knowledge of staff in our repository. So we need to increase awareness for institutional repositories in Africa. How do we do that? There should be self-archiving of scholarly work. in institutional repositories in African countries. Institutional websites should be populated with scholarly works. Yes, we should implement and diverse marketing strategies, diversity, and then conduct regular training, workshops, seminars. I volunteer to be part of that. And then improve awareness, skills, and knowledge about institutional repositories among academic staff. Some of them are not aware. You will be so shocked that you will ask a lecturer in the university, do you have a repository in your school? And the next question will be, what is a repository? Don't say Queen said that. It's true. Some people do not have that knowledge. So we need to let them know. You think they know, some don't know. So what are these facts? The fact is, the quality of a university in Africa is assessed by the high standard of research that this university has, the quality of research output of that university. So that is a fact. And so for us to be able to get that, we need to revamp our university. We need to a university repository. We need to build our university repository and create massive awareness so that our repositories will be robust. One of the other facts is that utilization of industrial research finding will help to solve problems of industries. How many universities are solving university problems? I, Queenette, I am a member in my university of Industry Academia Collaboration Board, where we visit universities, ask them what their problems are. Universities like mine, Igbinejo University Okada, Nigeria, who is a member of AAU African Association of African University, organize sessions to ask universities, what are your problems? How can we solve the problems from the research house? Because we are the research house, we are the knowledge house. They are the ones that are having the money, the fund, the resources to be able to fund these researches so that we can solve problems for them. And so taking the bull by the horn, we have to develop portals, develop wikis to enhance access to research outputs and increase global awareness. Open science will come to play because open science is data savvy. Yes. Modern approaches to scientific research and making it transparent is all about open science. Open science will give us access to all levels of society, both the amateur and the professionals. So even those that are claiming that they are not aware of open science or repositories in our African universities. So we need to have an open methodology. So whatever your methodology is, you should be able to make it open, make it transparent for people to have access to it and develop on what you have done, because nothing is new. Somebody will just take up on where you stopped and then improve on it. And that's what research is all about. Open science, we allow researchers to benefit from current scientific findings and improve on them. Open science will show the next generation metrics and then future scholarly communication and research integrity, building, revamping, and increasing awareness in all African university repository will help to protect the cultural heritage of Africa. Thank you very much for listening to me, and God bless you. Happy celebration on African Universities Day 2022. Thank you for listening. Greetings from Igbinejo University, Okada, Nigeria. I am Dr. Queenette, Department of Mechanical Engineering, a senior lecturer at Igbinejo University. Thank you for listening to me. And thank you, Dr. Feza, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, Ghana. You can see I'm all dressed in Ghana outfit. Thank you, Akwaba.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Queenette Kingsley, for your presentation. It was such a lovely one. My name is
Dr. Queenette Kingsley Omoyibo, O-M-I-B-O.
Great. Omoyibo, Dr. Queenette Kingsley Omoyibo. Thank you so much for joining us and for your presentation, of course. I would call on Mr. Hassan Mohammed to give his presentation. I don't know if Mr. Mohammed is connected. He would give his presentation on open science in Somali. Where are we? Mr. Hassan, if you are connected, kindly take the floor. Okay, I don't think I see him connected. And so based on the Mr. Hassan Mohammed.
Is my speech here
We can
clearly?
hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. If my speech is heard, let me start my presentation if possible.
Okay. You are allowed to share your screen, Mr. Hassan. Mr. Hassan, can you hear us, please? Okay, I think we would have to give Mr. Hassan some time to organize himself better and then present. We would now take some questions from participants based on the 3 presentations that we've had so far. If you have any questions, you can send them or drop them in the chat box, and I'll read them out to our speakers to respond to them. Otherwise, you can just raise up your hand.
Okay, okay. Can you hear me at the moment?
Yes, yes, Mr. Hassan, we can hear you.
Okay, excuse me, something went wrong from me. At the moment, I'm available to ready to make my presentation.
Okay, Mr. Hassan, looks like you are connected with 2 devices and it's echoing here. Probably you may have to disconnect one to do your presentation on the other. Thank you.
Okay, let me try to. At the moment, is it still echoing?
Yes, it is echoing.
Okay, let me.
Was
How about the moment?
the 2 days.
How about?
Maybe you open 2 devices, maybe switch and one.
Hello?
Either you can use the computer, the handset.
Can I speak?
Yes, please, Doctor. Yes, Mr. Hassan, kindly go
Yes,
ahead.
you can.
Okay, excuse me for something went wrong from me. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Hassan Mahmoud Fido. I am from Somalia. I am educationalist working in teaching and training activity, also a researcher. And I'm so glad to have this precious opportunity to participate in this important occasion for African University Day celebration. Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Hassan.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let me start. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable participants, I'm going to extend my thanks to everyone here on the platform in general, chiefly the Dr. Faiza Osman for her outstanding efforts in this occasion. Also, I'm going to thank the coordinators of this well-organized occasion by saying thank you very much, all of you. After this, in the light of the theme of the occasion, I'm going to say something about open science in Somalia and where we Somalis are we. I'll talk about it in 2 axes. First, general overview of the concept of the open view. Second, is it existing or applicable in Somalia? I'll talk about 2 points in summary. Let me begin with the first. I can say, or as we can recognize from the word open science as a compound, it is a modern technology term that can be divided as a set of practice that increase the transparency and accessibility of scientific research according to the definition of Van der Zee and Rick 2018. It's an approach to the scientific process that focuses on making research more than or more transparent. Okay, by sharing research data, sharing methodologies, including small code levels and categorization, use it to analyze data involving citizens in the research process and making the findings. According to the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, open science is a movement to make scientific research and data accessible to all. That is all. That's an overview of the open science. I am not going to talk about it in detail because I'm sure that this term is familiar to everyone here on the platform. Secondly, the second point that I'm going to say something is open science exists in Somalia with, or in other words, open science is not existing in Somalia with all the meaning of this term in compound. This is the main point that I'm going to say something about it. As every country in the world, Somalia has got the last 2 decades almost different types of technology, including technology-based teaching, learning, and research. This facilitates collaboration in all educational institutions by creating interactive access among them. But when it comes to the real life or the exact meaning that the term open science carries, I can say that it is not existing as a whole among the higher education here in Somalia, as far as I know about it. But there may be interactive initiatives or towards researches carried out by some universities among themselves or with other education concerning institutions. For example, on the Teachers' Day in Somalia, November 21st of this year, several scientific researches in which the Somali Teachers Syndicate and some universities in Somalia have collectively collaborated in their conducting and publishing as supposed to be demonstrated for that day. So this is an evidence that universities in Somalia and other higher education have begun to move towards the open science and understood its importance for the community development. Thank you very much for my, and excuse me if I have prolonged the speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hassan, for your presentation. So at this juncture, I would like to call on anyone who has questions or any contributions to make based on all of the presentations that we have received so far. You can drop your questions in the chat box, or you can raise your hand.
Some people are raising up their hands.
Yes, so
I've been raised up.
yes, so I would call you and then give you the platform to speak. I think Mr. Ali Metwali raised his hand before Dr. Faiza, so I'll call Mr. Ali first to speak, and then Dr. Faiza will follow.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, let me welcome you all. And firstly, let me to introduce myself. My name is Ali Metwali, a political researcher and analyst, also Deputy Director of Egypt Africa Center at the British University in Egypt. Thank you for inviting us to participate in like such this important event. Also, let me congrats for Africa University's Day celebration. And let me please say, open science is a growing, sorry. Did you hear me well? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you speak?
Yeah. Open science is a growing global movement to make scientific research and data accessible to all. It's not only an issue of science being open to the research community, and in open access and open data, open science refers to a science open to society. Also, open science could be a game changer for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly in Africa, least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island developing states, as it has the potential to significantly increase scientific discovery and facilitate adaptation of well-adapted technologies for enhancing economic competitiveness, supporting sustainable development, and alleviating poverty. Also, the African Open Science Platform has recently been launched, demonstrating the importance of open science for Africa and for countries that need to strengthen their scientific systems and benefit from the result of science produced worldwide. The vision is for African scientists to be at the cutting edge of contemporary data-intensive science as a fundamental resource for a modern society, to be innovative global exponent and advocates of open science, and as leaders in addressing African and the global challenges. This vision is thus fully in line with the African Agenda 2063. Finally, at the British University in Egypt, we are interested in open science data and this all related topics of this issue, and also we are interested to keep in touch with contact person, International University of Applied Science in Germany. Please, if you have, if you could send the contact person or contact point to keep in touch at the British University with them. Thank you.
Metwali of British University in Egypt. I would call on Dr. Faiza to make a submission, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to highlight on the very important issues that had been raised by Dr. Kusum about the entrepreneurship education. I like to say that East African Office of the Association of African University born a new initiative. It's called African University Expert in Entrepreneurship. And actually, as I said, we work in a forum and a consortium. Actually, we start working entrepreneurship at our office a little bit early, since 1990 or 80, when I had been invited by UNIDO office in Bahrain to represent East African communities and to attend entrepreneur meeting at Bahrain. So as that activity, so more than 25 African experts had been attending that meeting under our office. And then we repeat the attendance of the same activity in Dubai last year. So from that time, we start to build our forum in the issue of entrepreneurship. So we are in continuous dialogue and consultation with each other in different African countries. And as the outcome of that, now we have a new African initiative for entrepreneurship. So the education and open science benefits for entrepreneurship. All the activities must be under that consortium. And fortunately, nowadays, we have the consortium, we have the constitutions and bylaws. We just look how to operationalize that committee. So in future, that if we have a chance, we can communicate and discuss this issue with people at the Secretary General. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Faiza, for your contribution. I would call on Mr. Omotayo to make the submission.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, Sophie.
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, yes, please.
Yes, ma'am. I am Ebulo Momotayo from Afe Babalala University at Ekiti.
Okay.
I really want to say congratulations to African universities on this celebration. And thank you to our presenters. They were awesome. Briefly, I want to know if you can get a link to the virtual webinar scheduled for 7th to 10th December, as mentioned by Dr. Fales Hayam. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. You said a webinar on the 7th to 10th of December?
As mentioned by Dr. Fales Hayam.
Okay, okay, sure. I would try and then get the link and also share with you all when we are sending out the presentations, as we always do. Thank you so much for your submission. Any more questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes, please, Paul. You can go ahead.
Hello.
Thank you very much for. Thank you very much for giving me this floor and a happy day for celebration for African University. As the theme of this year mentioned, the open science, bringing equity and research for publication. I think for our recommendation as researchers and higher learning institutions, we should just advocate how the government is allocating the budget for just research and development, because we still just have some issues of budget allocation for the institutions, the higher learning institutions, for carrying out the research, and even the government and some partners still have some issues. We have many researchers and those who are very interested to do the research, but the issues is some fundings and the budgeting for this research, which can be more discussed and more have some more orientation to have the solution for this issue for research and publication. The second one, currently we're using the digital technology to publish research fundings, where we still have the issue of networking and infrastructure in terms of connectivity and broadband, including in our institutions, and even some countries have some issues. I think for AU and other partners, we can think how we can just reveling this and even scaling out some connectivity program and projects to have the solution for this issue. Thank you very much for giving me this floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul Abineza. And at this juncture, I would like to wrap up the session, and I would call on Dr. Faiza to give a few words. But before I do that, I'd like to reiterate some of the points that were made by our speakers. Yeah, so one person said open science should replace traditional ways of thinking about research findings as the private property of the researcher. And I think Ali also mentioned that open science could be a game changer in attaining the SDGs and also the Agenda 2063. These are key things that we should consider and also consider in our discussions, and also in how we go about implementing some of the key goals of the African Union. I think one person who spoke about entrepreneurship, Dr. Kasum, mentioned the need to involve women in attaining some of the things that we need to promote in terms of access to markets, and education being a key role to helping us be more informed about open science and the influence or importance to education in Africa as a whole, Africa's development. I would like to thank you all for participating. Okay, Dr. Kasum has raised his hand. I think I'll give him the platform to say a few words, and then I'll hand over to Dr. Faiza Osman. Dr. Kasum, can you take the floor?
Okay, thank you, moderator, for your summary of the recommendation of a point of view, but I want to say something very important. In our conversation in the next step forward, I find that we need in topic of the celebration to put women in center of the open science development.
Yes.
I think that this is a critical point we need to have in mind. And to attain this goal, we need to develop the STEMs at the primary school, the process of education in the background of the people, to develop STEMs for girls. I find that if we want to attain this open science a high level for the benefits of the continent, we need to develop STEM for women, for girls inside our continent. This is something very important I want to highlight. And following the proposal of Dr. Paul Abineza from Rwanda, I find that we need to think about how we can put in place an African fund for open science development. I find that this is something important to shape the financing model that we can have in the continent, that we can raise the point how we can be independent in that sector and to sustain our development in line of the Africa 63 agenda in the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kasum. Indeed, education of the girl child is an important strategy to improving the development of Africa. Dr. Quinette, do you have something else to say or to add to what Dr. Kasum said?
All right. Yes, thank you very much for having me. I want to thank Professor Faiza Osman for allowing me to participate. I want to quickly say this. Our researches are in the shelves of our libraries, the libraries of our universities in Africa. We should just those researches, remove them from the libraries. Those are old school. Gone are those days where you do a research and take it to the library. Please, all the findings, all the recommendations, all the suggestions for further studies, all the data in those researches should go to the open science so that the world can develop from where we were to where we ought to be. Thank you very much for listening to me, and God bless you all. Happy celebrations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Quinette, for your final words. And big thank you to all our speakers for such an impactful and informative presentations that they made. All your presentations were timely, and we do hope that the stakeholders will take up the task to implement all of those strategies suggested to be able to develop Africa together. I would like to call on Dr. Faiza Osman to give her final remarks, and then we'll close the session.
Yes, thank you very much. Come together, join each other, and work together in Africa. This is our goals and our initiative at East African Office. Coming back to this activity and to the program, actually we concentrated on different items that had lighted on in the issue of open science and the role of the university and education. So we have three main goals for planning and implementing this activity, that to highlight on the needs and to see the experience from different African continents, and then to say what is the constraint. Actually, in Africa, we have different experiences, as you saw, and we have many experts in different areas. We just need to sit together and to work together to find out solution for all constraints that facing the implementation of any developmental activity according to 2063 agenda, because we need to achieve our goals and objectives for African development. Advocacy, training, infrastructure, and collaboration is the four main constraints. So I think we need to get together to work in different formulas and settings to find a way in solving this problem in order to get up with a valuable thing for our community. So I would like to thank AAU main office, Dr. Nudumu and her team for help and assistance as usual for making this occasion successful. And our final say is that we need to have initiative. We are African. I think we need to implement and do some forward step to improve what we are thinking about and to solve all our strengths in education and community services. So from this corner, that I will say that in East Africa, we can start to build an open science platform. So it can help a lot. And actually we have a database of many experts, and we have a database about sponsor and donor, so we can get together to find way and to solve most of our problem in education and community services. Thank you very much, and I hope you good time, and I will think we could be able to collaborate and to work against our goals and development in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Faiza Osman, for your last words, and also acknowledging our speakers and AAU for putting this event together. I'd also like to thank the East Africa Regional Office for putting this event together in support of the celebrations of the African Universities Day 2022. Right after this session, there will be another session on another Zoom platform. We've shared the link in the chat box. You can click on the link to join that platform, to join that celebrations. There will be a presentation from the Demographics of African Faculties, the DAF project team. They will be sharing their findings on what they've done so far. So it is the theme for their event is dissemination of outputs from the East African pilots of the Demographics of African Faculty study. And that will be happening at exactly 9 o'clock GMT. So you can join in the session using the link in the chat box. Right after that, there will also be a presentation from the eLearn Africa team, who will be taking us through the online program management, 100% online degree programs at the AAU's AAU eLearn Africa LMS platform. So that session will be right after the DAF presentation. So kindly click on the link in the chat box and then join that session. 11 o'clock GMT. Thank you so much for joining us today in celebrating the African Universities Week. To all our participants and our honorable speakers for this session, I would like to say a big thank you for making this success.
Can we open the video and make a group photo?
The next event at exactly 11.
Thank you for you, and thank you for AAU
to
organize like this event, important event.
Can we open videos for group photo?
Thank you so much.
See you in the next event at exactly 11 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you so much for you. Thank
Can
you. Bye bye.
Open video for the group photo, please, my colleague.
Yes, we can take a group photo before we log off. Yeah, so everyone put your camera on for a group photo. Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you all. Have a great day
session.
for all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very
much. Bye.
Bye-bye.